Okay. Hey everyone, thank you for joining. I'm so glad that you all can make it this evening. So we're not going to be before you long. I do want to discuss the real estate market and the role that the closing attorney plays in the whole real estate process, and some policies that I've seen implemented, or some policies that have been implemented since we're in this COVID-19. We are certainly living in different times, and everyone wants to make sure that they're cautious and safe. And while we're protecting ourselves, we want to make sure that we protect each other. So I've got Poole with me this evening. He is a closing attorney with Elite Law. JJ, why don't you introduce yourself and just give a little information about yourself, and then we'll go into the topic tonight.
All right. Well, my name is JJ Poole, like she said. I am an attorney that does real estate closings. My primary focus is sports and entertainment law. So I work with professional athletes and singers and rappers and the whole nine. But I have a unique background with real estate, having been in real estate for nearly 20 years. And so my experience is vast in real estate, so I decided as well to maintain a relationship with real estate by continuing to do closings, and not to mention that I'm a broker as well. So this is what I love to do.
Good deal, good deal. I know real estate is one of those things that it is addictive. It's like once you learn a little bit about it, everyone wants to know about it, but once you know a little bit about it, you want to know more. That's how it is for me anyway. So
you never ever go away from it.
Nope, never ever go away from it.
To almost every industry in the world.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right. So before we get started, I'm going to go into some statistics, and then we'll go into the role that the closing attorney does play throughout the whole process, and some things, like I said, some things that you guys have implemented. So a lot of folks think that because we are in this whole COVID-19 coronavirus mess, that it's a buyer's market and they're just going to get a house really cheap, and they're just going to speak with that loan officer and just get approved, and they can just get it a home for pennies on the dollar. But that is not the case. We are still in a seller's market here in Atlanta. I'll just go over some March statistics that I pulled from the Atlanta Realtors. And I'm gonna give you a comparison based on the numbers in March of 2019 and compared to the numbers of March of 2020, okay? So the average and median continue to outpace 2019. The average price, it continues to outpace 2019. The median price for homes in the Atlanta metro area is about $293, okay? The average price it's about $350. So that median price is up 6.5%. That average price is up almost 4%. So, you know, prices continue to appreciate, okay? I have not seen any sellers, and this is just for me watching the market every day. I haven't seen any sellers deeply discount, you know, the price on their home. They're not desperate. They're cautious and they're waiting, but they're not desperate. We're still in a seller's market in Atlanta. I mean, before this happened, we were in a very robust market. Our job market was strong. We continue to have people relocate here. So it's pretty strong here, okay? Inventory has decreased almost 10% from last year. And that is because of this whole COVID-19. I have seen sellers take their house, you know, put their house on hold or just take it off of the market until this whole thing blows over. But from what I've been reading from folks that I've been speaking to, after this is over, it's expected to start booming again. It's going to be a little slow, but it is expected to start booming again. We just, you know, I will never tell anyone that because we are in a recession or because things are just going super well, whatever the case may be, you have to purchase when it's right for you, whatever your financial situation is. So whether we're in a recession or whether things are just going really well, if it's not right for you, I would never suggest that you should buy a home. It depends on your financial situation. Okay. Like I said, we're still in a seller's market. There's only about maybe 2.5 months of supply that's on the market. And so again, sellers aren't going to deeply discount because we're in a crisis right now. Okay. So, you still want to be reasonable. You don't want to, submit any lowball offers. You're not going to get it for pennies on a dollar. The market is going to do what it's going to do. Okay. So do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, well, the only thing I would like to add is that's actually phenomenal for Atlanta.
Mhm.
We've actually seen the value of our properties go up significantly here in the most recent years. And it's been 24 years. It is amazing to see the growth, the continued growth in Atlanta, and that's something I expect to see in the forthcoming years.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I believe I was speaking with a friend of mine who, she's been an agent for a very long time, probably over 30 years, and she felt really confident about this time go around versus what happened in 2008 when the market was just a mess, when it crashed. And so she's like, Shannon, this isn't anything like this. Before then, it was bound to happen because prices were appreciating at almost a 13%
Right.
rate. She said now, on average, it's about 4%. So we just wait it
Well,
out and go with the slowdown and move forward.
well, and there's a lot to learn from 2008, having gone through that time. During that time, I was a mortgage banker,
Okay.
and
Oh,
actually,
wow. You've done every job.
yeah, actually a pretty successful mortgage banker during that time. One of the things we should learn from during that time is we should have been preparing
Mm-hmm,
for this to happen. The market cycle, this will happen every 10 years.
mm-hmm,
The market never tells you how it's going to take place,
mm-hmm,
but we know from the models, the investment models, the real estate models,
mm-hmm,
the news models, that we're going to experience some sort of housing dip
mm-hmm,
or some sort of recession.
mm-hmm.
For whatever reason it's going to take place. So, 2008 should have taught us to be prepared for things as such. And I think we are. I think we're better prepared.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think so too. I think so too. I wasn't in real estate during that time, but you can imagine when this happened, I was a little nervous because I know how it affected everyone. At the time, my husband still had, we were just starting his painting business. And so he was affected because there was just no work. So with regards to real estate, I was just really nervous. I didn't know. So of course I did a ton of research because this is my livelihood. This is what I do. So, you know, any good agent or anyone that's in any type of field, you're going to research what's going on. So, but let's talk about your role in during the real estate process. A lot of people, they don't know that, we have to go to the closing, when we go to the closing table, that everything is basically facilitated by the closing attorney.
Right.
You guys have a role, why don't you explain the purpose of your role during the process, besides, it's something that's required by law in Georgia. But what do you all do in the background in some of the policies that you've implemented during this whole process?
But yeah, of course, what we do in our role is critically important to the buyers, because what we do is we make a legally recognizable transaction binding and lawful among the states, which means that the state of Georgia and all other related states will recognize the real estate transaction, the purchase, the acquisition of real property, because we have essentially done what we do on our end, which is the first thing we do, which is critically important, is a title examination,
Mm-hmm.
right? And during that process, the title examination, what we typically end up doing is we're searching out the title for any liens or encumbrances on the title. Liens or encumbrances are typically they're items that cause the property to be held up from being clear and marketable for purchase by an individual. So what the attorney's office will do is we will go back through the searching process and look for any liens or encumbrances on title that may cause the buyer or the buyer from buying the property and the seller from selling the property, right? Once we've done that and we have clear title, the parties are able to enter into the transfer of title, or what we call in Georgia conveyance of the title. Now, we bring all parties together to ensure that that conveyance takes place. However, most parties will need during this conveyance a loan to purchase or proceeds to purchase the property when they don't have cash. And so when they don't have cash, a lender becomes involved within that process. And when the lender does become involved, we manage the process for the agreements and contracts that are signed between the lender and the buyer in order for them to provide that loan and for the buyer to provide a security deed or what we call a mortgage to the lender in order for financing on that property, so that that property gives notice that there is somebody that lent money on that property to purchase that property, and that they still need to be repaid in order for the owner of record to become the owner clear and free without any liens or encumbrances on the title. Therefore, to clear title so that they can at least own it and pass it down through a will or through their estate, or so that they can sell it to the next person that wants to purchase that property.
And that's the main thing. Are they able to sell that property?
Yeah.
I think that's
the bottom line. Right.
That's the main thing. It seems like the last couple of closings that I've had, there's always been something wrong with that title. That title's come back. And I mean, and each time, and it seems to come up at the last minute.
Right.
We're at that final hour, but every attorney that I've worked with, they've been really good about making sure that, facilitating, us getting a clear title. So,
well, and this is
really
why
good.
title insurance is so important, because, sometimes things don't even show up on title, because even though the person who is selling the property may not have a lien on the title when the contract is first signed, when people find out that that property may possibly be sold, they run and they claim any judgments that they may have against the property. So if the person who owns the property doesn't have, the buyer doesn't come in with title insurance, that title insurance doesn't protect them from any liens that may show up in the midst or after the closing transaction. So what I always typically tell our buyers is that, hey, listen, what shows up on the title that we can search out and examine are liens that have gone through the proper process of placing a lien on a property. So, for example, if you get into an issue with a property owner, and the court gives you a judgment on that property, the court doesn't automatically place a lien against the property. It is the responsibility of the person who has obtained the judgment to then go to the court to file that lien against the property. Now, just because they don't file that lien right away, it doesn't mean that the lien goes away. It means that the lien will then have the opportunity to be placed at any time during the ownership of that property.
Mm-hmm.
If that lien is placed at the last minute, then those title issues will come up at the last minute. When there are personal debts, credit card debts, sometimes creditors will seek permission from the court in order to place a lien on the property for the settlement of credit debts. There are personal agreements that people make in regard to taking equity out of the home, meaning they're going to take some portion of the value out of the home prior to the sale of the property, and it may not be a bank, so it may not show up as a home equity loan or a formal loan, but someone may have a piece of paper signed between him and the neighbor saying, you know, I'm giving you $20,000 to fix that nasty pool that you had over there with the green stuff in it in order to make the neighborhood look better.
You know
So
what?
those are things, unfortunately, we can't always get in front of, but those are all things that we do consider when we're preparing to convey the property from the seller to the buyer.
Yes. And you know what? It's funny you said that. We have a friend, he's a contractor, and he had done some work on someone's house about 8 or 9 years ago, and he had gotten the judgment, he had won the judgment, and he found out that this person was selling their home.
Yeah.
And he thought that he automatically, that it was going to prevent them from selling their home. And I'm like, you need to speak with an attorney before you start doing anything, before you just start making any claims. You need to go through the proper process.
Right.
Yeah. And he was shocked. He's like, nobody ever told him that this is what he was supposed to do. He just thought because he had that judgment that was it.
You'd be shocked at how many side deals are made between children and parents, between brothers and sisters, between aunts and uncles, for things related to the property that are done, that are purchased, that don't show up on the title search, of course, because it wasn't formally processed. That will show up, you know, within a few days of closing when that uncle or aunt or mother finds out, oh, well, they're selling the property. It's time to get my money now.
It's time to get my money. It's usually how it goes. I tell people all the time, when money is involved or when someone passes away,
that's right.
That's when it all comes out.
All of the insects jump right out of the bushes.
Yep, it all comes out. So I know during this time, I've experienced some changes, like during the closing process. My past couple of closings were virtual. And even with the showings, everything's been virtual. So we're starting to move to that. What are some of the policies that you guys have implemented with this whole COVID-19?
Well, yeah, and I thought, and thinking about this question, there are really 5 key things that have changed about the closing process, and I'll go through them in the order in which they actually take place. The first thing is that the closings are staggered. Okay, and what that means is just that the seller will come in to the property to the closing about 15 minutes earlier than the buyer, to avoid there being a large crowd in order to avoid those social distancing spaces. Okay. The second thing is the wearing of the mask. We do wear the mask at the closings, and we do have a initial screening of the people who attend the closings, where we're asking, you know, have you been sick recently? Do you have a high temperature? Have you ever been diagnosed with the virus? There's a few screening questions that we actually go through to ensure the safety of all people involved. The third thing that we do is locations. You made mention of locations in regards to closings. Now, we still do some face-to-face closings. However, we also do video closings. The video closings will allow us to do the closings away from one another, just like we're in this format. This is the same format that we would use
Mhm.
However, with video closings, when there is a lender involved, the lender will have to approve a video closing. So it's not that we can just decide to do a video closing unless that person is buying the property for cash.
Mhm.
And those are the times we actually use those video closings. Now, the governor has stated that Atlanta will reopen. They'll start reopening the malls and everything on May 1st,
Mhm.
and they've already began to reopen some of the other types of retail facilities like the barbershops and the salons and movie theaters. Now, not everybody is adhering to that change that has been approved by the governor.
Mhm.
So the lenders are, wanting to have a more intimate type of understanding for their buyers during the closing. So they want the attorney to be as close to the closing as possible.
Mhm.
So with that said, we still do, those face-to-face closings while we still are approved to do the video closings as well.
Mhm.
The fifth thing is the social distancing. We provide our closings in a large room called the green room, and it's almost like auditorium style. And so to avoid what we were doing previously, which was we were closing in the office in a much tighter space,
Mhm.
which at a closing table, like we did on the pictures. We've got our picture up on IG about how we did those closes in a much tighter, closer space. Well, we've spaced that closing out so that the attorney is 6 feet apart from the
Okay.
buyer and 6 feet apart from the seller when those closings are done, along with wearing the masks. But I do want to say this: uh, after having described the changes we've had to make, it is still a very happy time.
It is.
Closing is still a happy time. And primarily, strategically, it's a very happy time during these times, is because if you know anything about mortgages are paid in arrears.
Mhm.
Okay. So if you got a closing that's taking place in May, your first payment on your mortgage will not be due until July.
They
Which
love
is
it when I tell them that.
right.
When the lender tells them that, they love it.
Right. So when so if a closing is taking place in April, well, even now, I mean, it's the last few days of April.
Mhm.
Sometimes, we'll extend that closing to when the mortgage is paid in arrears,
Mhm.
and prorate the days to make sure that the mortgage is not due until July.
Mhm.
And that is a great benefit for someone buying a home, because not even with renting are you able to fully avoid any payments right now, you see.
Mhm.
And so, your interest and everything is still accruing
Mhm.
for the mortgage. However, that's going to accrue, and so long as you own
Mhm.
the property. And so the first payment option is a wonderful, wonderful benefit to what's happening right now. And it's probably easier to make a move and buy a house than it is to rent right now, because, the landlords are pretty much suffering with having most of them pay the mortgages.
Mhm.
Um, and they're looking for some relief on their end.
Mhm.
And so what they're allowing current tenants to do is to stay in place, and they're not taking on new tenants right now, unless you can give a couple of months up front
Mhm.
that deposit, in which that's not what you're doing here when you buy the house.
Yeah. Yes, and you know what? It's funny you said that. There are a couple of groups that I follow online on Facebook, and you just wouldn't believe all of the requests or the complaints, I should say, so complaints, where they're just not able to find anything to rent. The credit score requirements that some of these landlords are asking, they might as well just save up their money a little bit and see if they can qualify for a home.
Right.
Of course, some people aren't in that position and they're going to need a little bit of work, but it's getting tough. The rental market is getting tough right now. I've got a couple of rentals that are going to hit the market in May, and the landlord is a little leery
Right.
You know, she's a little leery. She doesn't know if she just wants to sell or if she wants to continue renting to get it, you know, to get that income, because she's had tenants that they haven't been paying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so home ownership, it has its benefits. It definitely has its benefits.
And especially during these times. And those are the things that, you know, us as industry professionals, that we can't forget to point out to possible clients who may be discouraged during this process, who may be scared, who may be nervous about these times. I think the true professionals during these times really stand out because you can provide your clients with the type of information that actually gives them the peace of mind in order to make good decisions. Well, not only do you want that during these times, you want that during any time or with any type of professional that you deal with. And so I always say that the virus is going to weed out those who are true professionals and those who is just trying to pretty much fake it until they make it.
Yeah.
Professional sharing and sharing this with, you know, number of people to help them learn, to give them the opportunity to see and learn during these times. You know what? This is actually better than a home buyer seminar because you don't have to drive to go there. You know, sometimes you'll get a little free food, but
yes,
it's better to save the gas money than it is to get the free food.
yes, yes. And then, you know, I think with a lot of folks, they get that one-on-one. Since I've been just kind of doing these one-on-ones, I'll shoot them out to my database, let them have an opportunity to look at the, you know, look at the video, get the information. If they have questions, you know, they'll reach out, as opposed to just us being in an actual seminar. Some people, you know, don't want to ask that question in front of a lot of other folks.
Right.
So, you know, this is a way to go, and information is the key. Education is the key when it comes to, you know, purchasing a home. I feel like everyone should know everyone's role, and they need to fully understand what the roles are and know that process. You know, that's important. That's important, especially when you're talking about the amount of money that, you know, some folks are gonna spend. So I think you froze up a little bit there. Everyone's role. Froze up a little bit there. Okay. Are you with me?
Okay, froze up there for a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Froze up a little bit.
And excuse the background. Normally it's a little more quiet here, but all of a sudden, you know, Buckhead has become a very active place here within the past few hours. I mean, normally this place is crickets because people are social distancing and sheltering in, but I think they're a little anxious, so they're out and about today, so you can hear the motorcycles and everything else. People.
Yeah, people are out and about, and it was a beautiful day today. So even if they're just walking around. Well, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, that's it. I just want people to remember to stay encouraged, to adhere to the social distancing, no matter what, you know, the governor or anybody says. You know, you have to take personal inventory for the safety of yourself and your family, and don't allow anybody to convince you otherwise. We don't have a cure yet. You know, I'm not a doctor, but common sense tells me that if I don't have a vaccine or a cure, that I shouldn't be out running around and putting myself in situations of high risk where I could end up, you know, in a hospital, needing one of those ventilators, needing that care.
Exactly. And on that note, I will say, please don't drink any disinfectant.
That's right.
Or any bleach or anything like that. You know, listen to what the doctors are saying. Our health professionals, listen to what they're telling you. Sure. You know, if they're telling you to keep that distance, keep the distance. If we have to wear gloves, wear gloves. If we have to wear a mask, wear a mask. But keep that distance. You want to keep yourself safe and everyone else around you safe. So
awesome.
Yep. Awesome. On that note, I am going to end. Thank you so much. You want to give them your contact information? If they have any questions, how can they reach out to you?
Well, if they want to reach out to me, you can hit me up on Instagram at IamJJ Poole. I'm on Twitter at JJ Poole. Phone number 678-462-5455. Email jj.poole@myelitelaw.com.
Perfect, perfect. And if you want to reach out to me, my Instagram and Facebook pages are Shannon Ellis and Associates. You can always hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. My phone number is 678-263-8966. I'd love to walk you through this home buying process.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you. Have a great one.
You too.